Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Blacksmith Furnace with me, Robert.
With me, Pete.
And like Mo, we out here, yeah. We out here in the freezing cold on the roads, but we out here, yeah. We got central heating, so obviously we ain't freezing. If you're freezing, I feel sorry for you. But price of living and that, innit? Cost of living and that is a madness. But yeah, shit, love.
It's crazy out here. Absolutely
I don't
crazy
know
out
where
here.
that came from. I don't know where that came from, but yeah.
Christmas is round the corner.
And it's actually starting to look a little bit like Christmas.
No, it was for one day, and then it was like, okay,
Yeah,
I've
but
done my best.
it's still been 0 and below, so the ice is still out there and the snow is still out
Yeah.
there. Like it hasn't melted
My
away.
garden is still frozen over.
Yeah, but no one likes ice. People only care about the snow, and the snow when it's untouched.
True.
Yeah.
Like legit.
Do you know what? Driving Noah to his nursery, yeah, the countryside is looking so picturesque.
Yeah.
So picturesque. But yeah, you're gonna say
I was gonna say the night it snowed, me and Andrea went out in the snow so that we could be the first ones to walk in the snow, so that it wouldn't be perfect for everyone else. It was great.
So that it wouldn't be perfect for everyone else.
No. So rather, we
Antagonistic. This is how villains are made.
we went to walk in it so that when we went to walk in it, it hadn't been disturbed by anyone else yet.
Okay. You wanted to take the snow's virginity. Cool.
Jeez, that's one way to look at it. Anyway, hot seat. Who's in the hot seat this week?
I think it's you, actually. For some reason, I think it's you.
Okay.
Because Mo is in the hot seat for the sexual manipulation. I think I was in the hot seat last week. Well, turned out to be last week. So I think it's you.
Cool. I'm ready.
Cool. Can I go first?
You can.
So I wanted to ask, following your topic about the census and all that data, I saw a stat that said I think more children are now in two-parent households than in the last few years or whatever. Or that number's at least risen. This actually is live, so it's not like I even have to hide it. We've got Mo and James being gangster couple for some reason. But
we're from the south side, baby.
business.
We're from the south side, baby. Yeah, you don't want to get
Being the
caught slipping on
stereotype.
these parts. You don't want to get caught slipping on these parts. You go back home without your trainers. Yeah, how about that?
how are you going to be gangster and cold at the same time? Anyway, yeah, so I was saying, yeah, number of two-parent households have gone up. There was no detail, or at least I didn't see the detail on what that meant, but I wanted to ask you this question. Is a single-parent household better, in your opinion, than a gay couple household?
Wow, that really to think a struggle, you know.
Well, I wouldn't want to answer this question.
And before I answer it, are we assuming that this single parent is a Christian single parent?
No, we're not making that assumption. No.
Then to be honest, well, from a Christian perspective, then they're both as bad as each other. To be honest, because
Why? Okay, yeah, okay, go for it.
so because in both family setups, the child will be missing either a father or a mother, and as much as people or like women like to say that, okay, let me this. As much as some single mothers like to claim Father's Day, women cannot fulfill the role of fathers due to the fact that they aren't men. And as much as you may try and teach your son how to be a man, there's a level of learning what it means to be a man that comes from your model, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And yeah, you can have father figures in the community, But then I don't know. I feel like there always be that element missing, and that element can also be missing in two-parent households where the father may not be as present as he should be. Um, so I wouldn't want to downplay, or I don't want to downplay the importance of a father or a mother and a mother. So yeah, I don't want to downplay the significance having either, but also having both at the same time
Yeah.
if they're both good.
Yeah.
Um, having two gay parents, I guess, increases the chance of you ending up becoming gay. In the
Does
same
it?
way, have it. I assume in the same way, like I'm sure a big part, or there was a part of the reason why we're all straight is because our parents were straight. So we grew up seeing that.
Some assumptions are being made.
Oh,
I don't want to say what assumptions are being made. I say some assumptions being
oh,
made.
What do you mean? I think it's quite logical that if you grow up in the same sex with same sex parents, you're more likely to end up gay.
I mean,
Because
they
don't
say
think-
because that is your closest view of what a romantic relationship looks like.
yeah,
there
yeah.
were studies on how I think women end up with or find attractive men that have the same scent as their fathers, something along those lines.
That's
Some
so
Like,
daddy
bad.
issues right
there
there.
was a study onto that, so there's some sort of biological bias there. But yeah, no, fair enough. Cool. You're still sort of begging the question.
Okay.
Somewhat,
So in that sense, I've a single parent household is better. Speaking as a Christian, because I feel like it will lead to less homosexuality. As a
That is
result,
so backwards.
as
That
opposed
is
to
so
more
backwards.
promiscuity, because you're gonna see mum still playing the field. I mean, we're presuming again. Another
We're
presumption is
presuming,
that
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
single parent
Maybe a
household
strong,
because mum
independent
doesn't
woman
know who the
who
dad
owns
is,
their own
or
yeah.
stuff.
To be honest, this question is literally pick the sin, and I feel like
yeah.
when it comes to homosexuality, that's two sins: sin of adultery or slash promiscuity, and the sin of
Why is homosexuality
homosexuality.
two sins?
Because it's the homosexuality plus the um plus the adultery slash sex outside of marriage.
Oh no, but they're married. You forget like the Methodist Church will marry now.
You know, but just because you're married doesn't mean God says you're married.
Okay.
Um, like on a practical level, yeah. We have a whole, like, I come from a Muslim household, and I'm not Muslim. We've got a whole bunch
You also come
of
from a
I know.
heterosexual household. Are
I
you
also come from a
heterosexual?
heterosexual household,
And you're not.
but
What? Sorry.
I'm not swinging that way. But I also recognize people who come from like safe, wholesome homes and have safe, wholesome, extended families who have ended up in gangs and have ended up doing stuff that they shouldn't do. And so, in as much as the household does provide the foundational understanding and premise and exposure to life, there are a whole host of other external factors that will then go into shape how this person goes about. So I think the person will grow up thinking homosexual relationships are normal, and recognize that by virtue of their parents being homosexual, recognize, okay, there are a multitude of different sexual orientations. Because I see men, I see women, I see man and woman, I see a man who's now a woman who wants to still be with a woman. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff. And so yes, homosexuality will be more normative there. But I am also viewing it from a position of less struggle for the kid growing up, like financial provision, stuff like that. I'm not saying in a single parent household you're going to struggle financially, but there are hopefully, and there will be two people with the potential to bring in a salary. which then means that the person, like now with households being cold, mum alone won't be having to worry about how am I going to keep the lights on. You'd have both dads or both mums drawing in a salary to keep the house warm, keep the lights on. And I'm like, you may actually be in a better physical condition with homosexual parents, just by virtue of the two salaries being drawn in. And I'm like, is that a better trade-off to be physically well off, to have your basic requirement, your basic needs taken care of, shelter, food, warmth, like to have those things taken care of? I would argue for that.
So I think my view is more eternity focused rather than here on earth focused.
And I mean, like, sorry, I recognize that, and I also recognize that, yo, if you die from pneumonia, you ain't had no chance to contemplate homosexuality or not. You're dead. You're struggling with pneumonia because it's cold, or like you're malnourished because mom couldn't afford food. Like, you know what I'm saying?
But yeah, but then being malnourished and like dying that way means you've likely had less opportunities to sin, so you got a better chance of getting to heaven.
What? I get the.
So I'm gonna call Robert now. I'm gonna call Robert Osteen. Yeah.
them wild theological acrobatics. Yeah, no. So I get what Robert is saying in that it ends up being almost choosing the lesser sin. But when I thought of the question, my sort of approach, and I think that's a fair enough way to look at it. When I was thinking of the question, my answer came from the idea of the parents and the burden on the parents, which is along the lines of more in the sense of a single parent, it's one person having to take care of the family. With two parents, there's potential for two. So even on an individual level for the parents, that hopefully would be less, just in general, if everyone's contributing, less stress on the individual in that situation, in the household with two parents. But that said, both of those households are a deviation from what God intended.
Facts.
Regardless, and so that's where I completely agree, and I'm happy with the answer because it's a hypothetical, but either case, both are deviations from God's.
I would also want to highlight the power of God to work in the midst of homosexuality or in the midst of single parenthood, and so even with us being eternally minded, the reality is God pulled me out of like watching Charmed and Supernatural. Like, bro, I wanted to be a vampire at one point. I watched Blade and I was like, yeah, I want them fangs. I wanted it.
Yeah, but you wanted them fangs because Blade was cool, not because somehow you had an affinity towards the devil. Yeah, no. So the point I'm making is my mom would see that and be like, oh no, the devil's gonna come and sit in you. I know. No, Blade is not going to make the devil come and sit in me. Like, relax. Charmed is not going to make me become. I'm not going to be going around doing that, hoping that people freeze. No.
How about a 3, baby? How about a 3?
Did you guys ever watch the remake? The reboot. What? They did a remake of it.
No.
The last
mixed race girls. Yeah. No, the original, the OG3 was always. Anyway, those things aren't going to come and put the devil in you. But yeah.
Well, actually, before Moses asked this question, this is totally random, but I just wanted to get you guys' view on Henry Cavill no longer being Superman in the DC.
Is he now Wolverine?
He's too tall to be Wolverine.
I don't think so.
I don't think he's been cast.
Posts about Wolverine and stuff, but
I don't think he's been cast.
I haven't been following him, so I haven't
Logan,
I've seen Tom
what's his
Hardy
name?
being.
I've seen that fan casting, but what's his name? I think he's reprising his role in the new Deadpool movie. Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, he's gonna be Wolverine again in the new Deadpool in Deadpool 3.
Mm.
So I don't and I feel like anyway, but it doesn't have to be that short. But Henry Cavill's definitely too tall to be Wolverine. But yeah, I feel like, have you guys watched Peacemaker?
I've seen clips. I haven't watched it.
Yeah. So James Gunn, I mean, you've watched Guardians of the Galaxy. You like James Gunn has a particular. You haven't watched Guardians of the Galaxy,
No,
raw. Okay.
but
Well,
obviously I know the Guardians of the
yeah,
Galaxy.
yeah. I feel like James Gunn has a particular. You've watched Suicide Squad
No,
with John C. Oh. Is this
Yeah,
guy?
Suicide Squad is on my to watch list. I haven't watched it either.
Wait, so why are
It's
you
on
guys giving
Sky,
me
and I feel
grief
like
when I don't
downloading
know
it,
certain anime? You guys don't watch any of everything.
no, because
bro.
films like Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad aren't required watching.
They are if you want to follow
Do
the
you know what?
MCU.
Yeah,
Anyway,
do
no,
I'm not trying to
actually,
follow MCU, and also I ain't got 2 hours to drop on every MCU film. Anime is 20 minutes.
yeah, 20 minutes over for how many hours altogether when you're watching the
But
season?
bro, it's 20 minutes every week.
Yeah, over how many hours altogether when you're watching the season?
Bro, if I can go sit on the toilet for 20 minutes and come back out
Yeah,
lighter
watch a
and
movie
well
20
educated.
minutes. Watch a movie 20 minutes
Nah.
in 20-minute chunks. Or go and drink a bunch of milk, have diarrhea. Anyway, the point I was making is I feel like they have got a they've got a very clear idea of what they want to do. I just don't know if it's going to be good because it's DC and it's like they've got this very very clear idea. But then also it sounds like it was amicable because I saw James Gunn's post as well, and it sounds like they might actually even bring Henry Cavill back at some point to be something. But yeah, I feel bad for Henry Cavill because it feels like he gave up The Witcher because it seemed like Superman was going to pop off again, and then The Rock was making all this noise about how he's changing the hierarchy of power. And so it felt like Henry Cavill gave up something that was good in The Witcher for this, and this has just been pulled out from under him.
Apparently, The Witcher wasn't very good either, which is why it was easier for Henry Cavill to.
Well, no, they weren't sticking to it because Henry Cavill's like a nerd. He's like
Yeah.
a proper nerd. They weren't sticking to the source material as closely as he wanted to, which is why it made it easier for him to leave. At least that's what the reports are saying.
Did you watch The Witcher?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Is it good?
yeah, it was good. It was good. I didn't read the books or play the game, so I found the TV adaptation was all I had, and I thought it was really good. But watching like reviews and stuff, you see why people that played some of the games were not as happy with it, and why Henry Cavill maybe wasn't as happy with it. But
Do you know I'm smiling? Yeah,
I was doing well
because I didn't watch the series. I watched the anime version. The Netflix
The
adaptation, the anime version. Yeah.
It wasn't
sick.
a version; it was a movie. But it was a movie somewhere like it was like a pre. It had nothing to do, almost nothing to do with the.
I've never seen The Witcher. I watched the anime. I was like, oh, sick. I saw the anime version. I was like, oh yeah, let me watch that.
You guys need to get off your high horse when it comes to a lot of these anime shows, because you'd be like, "Oh, have you watched this?" And I'll be like, "No." Hey, Peter, you don't watch anything. So you guys need to relax.
Have you watched Chainsaw Man?
No, I haven't watched Chainsaw
You
Man.
need to watch Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
Now, do you know what Chainsaw Man? I'm watching it, yeah, and I'm questioning. I'm like, should I be watching this? These men are going into contracts with demons. I'm just like, yo, should I really be watching this?
Yeah.
These men fully be going into contracts with demons, and they're like, which demon should I get in contact with? Like, what can I give up? I'm like, bro, should I really be watching this? But it's wavy.
It is way. Wow. I've been trying to get people onto Chainsaw Man since the manga. I've been trying to tell people. No one wants to listen. They saw the anime. They finally understood.
Bro, I'm trying to finish Attack on Titans. I'm halfway through the 3rd season. I'm trying to finish that. So it's only 4 seasons.
Does it stick to the manga? Like the whole way through?
So do you know what? Yeah, I had read the manga up into, I think, season 2, and then I lost track of it. So yeah, up into season 2, they stick fairly closely to it. They stick fairly
the end was
closely
what?
to it. I'm not there yet, so I can't comment on that, bro.
Yeah, it gets super meta, but yeah.
Why is it so hard for anime to come up or manga to come up with good endings? Same with Demon Slayer. Apparently, Demon Slayer had a bad ending.
It doesn't have a bad ending. It has an anticlimactic ending.
Which is a bad ending.
Fair point.
What's it though? I found the premise to be quite repetitive.
What, for Attack on Titan?
Attack on Titans, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, Naruto. After watching
Naruto
Naruto, where
had a
it's
good
like,
ending.
no,
Naruto had a
no, I said the
definitive
premise,
ending.
the premise, not,
Oh,
not
sorry,
the ending,
sorry.
the premise.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have somehow gotten this amazing power, and now you need to go through the process of mastering this power whilst also dealing with the social ostracism as a result of that power. Jujutsu Kaisen is like that. Like, if he makes one mistake, if he sneezes wrong, they're gonna kill him. They're already trying to kill him, which is what they're trying to do with Naruto. Demon Slayer. Actually, no, Demon Slayer isn't. He holds something that he doesn't know that he holds, and so obviously the demons are coming after him. But then we've also got Chainsaw Man. He gets this demon, and now the gun demon is trying to come after his heart. I'm just like, bro, are we just gonna rehash the same concept?
No, it's different. It's different. It's different.
Yeah, but that's when you start going into the romantic anime like this guy does. Yeah, watching Your Lie in April and stuff.
You're like.
Hey, do you know we've deviated strong from our team?
It's okay. I don't care. This is a great conversation.
Mo, ask your sorry, not sorry, man.
Yeah, go for it.
I've even forgotten what the sorry, not sorry. No, you had asked a question. Okay, MCU. Yeah, I haven't followed it, so I have no idea. But I think whatever his name is, he actually portrayed a really convincing Superman.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, I think he portrayed a really convincing Superman. I haven't enjoyed Superman films as much as I have done with him. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of nuance in his acting that I'm like, yo, he portrays it well. There's a humanity that he has as well.
I felt like he was too stoic. Like he didn't portray the light you would presume Superman portrays.
And the reason I like that is because you almost saw the human wrestle that he was going through.
I think he did a good Kal-El. I think he failed as Clark Kent. Because Clark Kent is what brings the levity to that stoicism. You know, if you're the most powerful man in the world, that's a complicated thing to be, especially when you've been raised as a human and you're dealing with that struggle of you are this powerful being, but then you have been given human values and, the Boy Scout thing with Superman. I think he did that relatively well, considering the direction that, the directors wanted to go in. But I feel like the thing that makes Superman's alter ego believable, and they haven't really done that to be fair, but is the fact that Clark Kent is such a bumbling fool. And I think that's the one that is it Matt Reeves? The guy that did it the first time round and in like the 90s. Christopher Reeves, sorry, not Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves directed Batman, sorry. Christopher Reeves, I feel like his Clark Kent did that very well. So that there was such a stark difference between him and Superman that it makes for a more well-rounded performance. But then also, the movies haven't focused on Clark Kent at all.
And also, I always liked how there was that dichotomy between Metropolis and Gotham City.
Gotham City, yeah.
In that Gotham was this place that Batman was trying to make better, but he just couldn't keep up fast enough. With Superman, there's no reason for a crime that can happen, and that's why it was so great, such a beautiful, peaceful place. You never really got that from the Man of Steel movies. That Superman being there made Metropolis kind of like utopia, or as much as a utopia as can be here on Earth. But I digress. You got a question for me?
I got my question now. So I have heard an argument for parents allowing their children to believe in Santa Claus, in the Tooth Fairy, in the Easter Bunny, and all of them things there. The argument being around feeding the imagination, the wonder of living, stuff around that, where it's just like not draining the child of a sense of awe and wonder as to the magic of what life, the possibility of what life can bring and stuff. Obviously, I still stand in Santa Claus ain't real. That present is from me. That present is from your auntie. Like Easter Bunny, you might have an Easter egg, but the pagan things there, nah. We don't have a Christmas tree. That's just. I'm not getting at you if you have a Christmas tree, but I'm just saying like we draw a line on them things. But biblically, how would you navigate that in terms of if and when you have kids? Biblically, what is your thought process behind whether you're going to allow them to, or you're going to play along with, oh, the tooth fairy is going to take your tooth and put a pound under your pillow. The Easter bunny is going to lay Easter eggs all around the house, and you're going to go on an Easter egg hunt. Santa Claus is going to climb down our chimney, even though we live in South and we ain't got chimneys. He's going to break through the window. Yeah, like biblically, how are you going to navigate that? It doesn't have to be explicitly like John 3, whatever, but just like, yeah, your sense.
Okay, so like the two biblically aligned ones that come to mind are Christmas and Easter. Easter, I do like the idea of a nice Easter egg hunt, to be honest.
I know you would. I know you would. The smile on your face when I said it, yeah, I was like, yeah, this guy's on it.
Whether I have to say what's the word? Not attain. Attribute that to Easter Bunny. Maybe not so much. You can tell the kids about Jesus's death and resurrection, and then have a Easter adjacent event in Easter egg hunt and Easter egg painting, all of that stuff. Just as a fun activity. I don't think I'll tell my kids that there's the Easter Bunny. I might, just because it seems like a nice playful thing to do. So for Father Christmas wise, yeah, I might do Santa Claus for a couple of years and then okay, let's get real. I think for me, as long as it's not something that is shaping their life, I think it's okay for them to go along with it for a little bit, because they will eventually grow out of it. I don't think Father Christmas and Easter Bunny are life altering concepts. You know, in the same way you grow up, you learn that wrestling's fake. You learn that Power Rangers isn't real.
If I listen to this podcast,
you know, with Power Rangers, I legit thought that they actually had building-sized Megazords that they were getting to do these fights all the time.
Bro, when I first heard Fuji's Ready or Not, yeah, I legit thought they were being chased by the Border Patrol. Like the video they were hiding, and I legit thought they were being chased by Border Patrol. I'm chilling watching the TV like, yo, are these men gonna make it? Like I was invested.
Yeah, you know, like thinking it through as I'm talking, I think I'd be happy for them to work out these things for themselves, because they'll be surrounded by Debbie Downers who will try and spoil everything for them anyway, and they can hate them instead of me, who's rigging the truth. Because then where do you draw the line? Are they then not allowed to sing about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Are they not allowed to talk about Frosty the Snowman? You know, like if you're canceling Father Christmas, you have to cancel everything else as well. If not, it's like, why do you draw the line just at Father Christmas when there's all this other Christmas adjacent stuff?
Yeah,
that I won't get through it. You know, that cartoon, I'm gonna lock that off as well. Are you gonna not put the scarf on the snowman because snowmen don't really get cold, so they don't need a scarf? You know, how far are you gonna take it? I think as long as they're not doing anything demonic, just let them do what they're doing. And then as
they're trying to hold
as they get older, we can have these conversations
to help. Yeah, they're trying to hold a seance to help things. Santa Claus coming to the house.
Yeah, well, Don't bring the Ouija board into the house. But apart from that, you can play Monopoly. That's okay.
Yeah, I think on our part, like obviously we're like Santa Claus is not real, blah blah blah. But we very much engage with like Santa Claus type content. So Paw Patrol has a Santa Claus episode, like Jack Frost. There's the film Jack Frost. I actually think that film is sick.
Yeah.
Like I like the notion of that film. And it's very much about like believing in something. Yeah, I like the notion of that film. But I'm like, yeah, Santa Claus ain't real, innit? Jack Frost ain't real, Easter Bunny ain't real, all of them man ain't real.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like, what happens if like the kids are at school and then they've got like Father Christmas dressed up coming to the school? Would you tell them that that's not really Father Christmas? That's just the guy in the costume.
Yes. 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 But at the same time, I'll be like, yo, some people believe in it. So if they want to believe in it, that's cool. But he's not real, innit? But I try not to do it in nursery.
Yeah, no, I mean, so my initial sort of reaction to the argument that this is stealing away from them a sense of wonder, I think that argument is stupid because, like, how is Santa Claus and Easter Bunny the only contributions to a kid's imagination? Like, there are incredible stories in the Bible that are historical that can equally like feed a kid's imagination. Why does it have to be these stupid, random, arbitrary, nonsensical things? You know, like I resent that argument.
Because they don't get presents from it.
You get the Holy Spirit from it, and it comes with lots of gifts.
Not that PlayStation, though.
well, here's the thing.
Not that box of chocolates.
Here's the thing. I think, and I think I'm actually more aligned with both of you in the sense of, like, I'm not going out of my way now to make the point that Santa Claus isn't real. In part because Zara doesn't really know Zara, my daughter, doesn't really know who Santa Claus is for me to then make a big stink out of that person not being real. There's a Santa's grotto at one of the shopping centers near us, and we went, and Zara wanted to go and see Santa, and I was like, yeah, but it's £5, I'm not paying that. And then like another day we went, Santa wasn't there, and I was like, yeah, maybe Santa's not working today. So like she knows that's an employee, you know, that's someone who works in the mall. The presents that she's getting for Christmas, she will know will come from mum and dad or grandpa or whoever. There's a
name tag on the thing.
Exactly. Father Christmas isn't breaking into my house, and if someone comes into our house that we don't know, that person's going to get hurt. So it's like I'm not making a big deal out of Santa isn't real. She'll figure it out herself. But then I'm also not playing into that stereotype or playing into that folk tale, you know, that I'm not saying Santa will bring you anything, you know. I'm like, no, be a good girl because you are a child of God and we are good people and that's what will make God happy, you know. And I think her imagination is fine. We've been playing a game where she tells me what she dreams about, so she'll tell me a story, and I'll tell her a story if I dream about something or something. And it's like every now and then I'll be like, tell me a story, and she'll come up with a story. It's starting to get a bit dark. She's like, there's a spider on your eye. I'm like, yo, wait.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think those aren't the only contributors to a kid's imagination. And so, yeah, I think I wouldn't make a big deal out of Santa Claus isn't real and, you know, all of that. But then I also wouldn't play into the story because she needs to know that Grandpa gave her this, not Santa Claus.
Facts.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
Bro, when you mentioned a spider on your eye, yeah, it reminded me of a priest that I had a conversation with who said that they just had a new baby, so everyone was sleep deprived, and his son was telling him a story about wanting to take his teddy bear into space to see the teddy bear's eyes pop out because of the vacuum, and then to rip the teddy bear's head off.
get dark. It can get a bit dark. It's like
But
so
as
it's
the
like,
teddy bear eyes pop out and then rip the head, I'm just like,
it's a bit
brother.
much. A bit
YouTube is a
much.
hell of
Yeah.
a thing, bro.
But this is
Bro.
the thing. Well, so random side note, if you let your kids watch YouTube Kids, specify what videos they watch, not just the channels. Because we had one channel and it was like, thank you, Jesus, for the air we breathe, thank you for the food we eat. And then the next one is how the grandmother killed a dog. And it's like, one playlist of stuff on the channel. It's like weird, like super weird stuff. Where they've started it off with Christ, and so we're like, because Zara only watches Superbook and like educational stuff on YouTube, but we've obviously seen that and thought, okay, cool, that channel's alright. And then it's like, oh yeah, the dog got killed and got stuffed in the bag, and it's like, yo, like, what's going on here? So
Yeah.
yeah, just be mindful.
They lull
Yeah,
you
that thing
into a
that's
false
going
sense
around
of security.
with some. Oh, there was something. I think it was called like Momo or something. That was going around on like children's YouTube, telling kids to like commit suicide and stuff.
I heard
heard
about
that.
that as well. Yeah.
I heard about that. One brother
That's gonna be
walking
mindful.
into random stuff talking about length way for attention, width ways for results or something. I'm just like, yo. Yeah, that's mad. It's mad.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
No, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that.
Great. Okay. We're already at like past the half an hour mark.
Yeah.
So,
Because we went to talk about anime.
well, it's important. It's important. Speaking about anime and all things artistic, Moses, you had your first exhibition this week, didn't you?
Woo woo.
Yeah, I did. Man.
So,
Do you know what? Funny enough as well, when we started the podcast, I was editing pictures that I took of my children looking at the exhibition. I'm looking to drop that on either both LinkedIn and Instagram with a little soppy caption.
There's a few levels of meta there because it's pictures of your kids looking at pictures of themselves in the exhibition, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Moses, do you want to take us through the highs and the lows of putting the exhibition together?
Do you know what? This was definitely one of those things where I felt like God threw me in the deep end to help me swim, to help me come out of my comfort zone, to push me out of my comfort zone. Given my own, like, left to my own devices, it wouldn't have happened this way. I had planned to do physical exhibitions at the start of the year, but I was overthinking it. And then I decided to do 2 small exhibitions. So the first one, which is Form, which was on my Instagram, I literally shot that in a day. We had gone on a retreat and I shot that in a day. Came back home, edited it and stuff. And with Waves, which is all about the wrestle of embracing of my value, seeing the water as a division between myself and my land of heritage, and recognizing that for my children, the ocean doesn't separate them from their land. It's the border of their land. Like, they were born here, and so to them, they're British. I was born in Ghana, and so there's that divide which the ocean presents, and recognizing that my struggle is going to be their struggle is going to be different from mine. But how can I almost prepare them? Not even prepare them, but to help them establish a sense of value and worth that mingles their heritage and where they are currently. Recognizing that their history isn't just slavery or whatever, that we focus on Black History Month and stuff like that, but they've got a rich, deep history. But they're also forming history as they live. So that's what this one is about. The high points was actually getting it done. Even through the process of knowing that I was thrown in a deep end, I still had absolute faith that God was going to take me through it. Things are going to come together on the day. I had a great team on the day helping me out.
And it was the day after it snowed.
It was the day after it snowed, yeah. And they literally came, one of them came from Northwest London, the other one came from East London. came down to just help me plan. Not even I'd planned it, but like set up to post the air. And it wasn't even that they just came. Um, Peter, you might want to mute yourself. It wasn't even the fact of they came, but for some of them, they actually put their money where their mouth is. They actually like spent money to help me put this up. So it's like it was dope just seeing people riding for me that hard, and even seeing yourself and other people. There was like 2 people that came through to come view the exhibition. I was like, yo, you man came through the snow. You man came through like train cancellations and stuff to come see this, and I'm like, I deeply appreciate that. So that was a high point. Having the images delivered, thinking through the stuff, just seeing my kids, taking pictures of my kids at the exhibition and stuff was good. Low points was just the logistics. The logistics was a headache. I printed off the images on a Tuesday. There's a 3-day printing time, and then there's a 1-day delivery time. But and that they don't do weekend service. I needed the images before Monday. So I was like, yo, I'm really hoping that I've actually caught the window. I did, thankfully. The building that I was using was on a jolting, absolute jolting. They weren't responsive to emails. They weren't, I had requested the boards to be in the room. I had requested a room to be emptied. I had requested like logistical stuff and like projectors and stuff. They had told us to get the easels to be delivered at 9:30 in the morning. Delivery man got there at 9:30. No one turned up till about like 11:10. Wow. And so logistically, it was a nightmare. So obviously we've got the courier service belling us vex, like, yo, our driver's out there for almost 2 hours and no one's there to collect it. So now we're having to try and mitigate things. I'm having to rush down to Kingston to try and move things. So I'm like, yo, like, I don't have keys. I can take it, but I'm just gonna have to chill outside. So yeah, it was a headache, just logistically. But everything came together by God's grace. And yeah, it was good to just have my work in that space and to allow my work the room to breathe and to be what it is meant to be. And recognizing that this is just the first step. Like there's going to be many more exhibitions coming through. Like my work is geared for exhibitions. So I'm going to start working on bodies of work now. And everything is going to be geared towards an exhibition of some point. Like it's made for the corporate space where people come in and interact and have conversations and stuff and ponder on stuff. So yeah. And I think the main thing that stood out for me was that this felt like ministry. Like it felt like ministry. With it being around value for those who preach, for the most part, before you give a sermon, you're tested on that sermon yourself. You go through something in relations to that sermon. And bro, like this exhibition was on us embracing our value. And literally a week or 2 before that, I was at one of the lowest points that I've been in. Like mentally, emotionally, I was finished. I was literally contemplating suicide. I was out. I felt like I had no one around me. I felt like no one wanted me. And through prayer, through counsel, through people being around me, I've been able to get to the point I'm at right now. But there's a certain level of appreciation for not just community, but who God has made me now. And I'm like, yo, like the level of testing that I had before this exhibition has been unparalleled, even when I've been given messages. I haven't been tested this much. I know pastors who like hate to preach on Job because they're like, yo, I'm not ready for that level of testing. But it's like I haven't been tested like this before in any message that I have preached. And so not only on the day, seeing how it impacted people, but recognizing all that I went through before it really feels like ministry. So yeah, it's just like, okay, if this is it, I'm going to press into it more. I'm going to kind of see what God is saying, and almost be mindful of the tests that will come before the big day, recognizing that this may be the pattern. Yeah, so if I got an exhibition coming through, I might be hollering the furnace to just be like, yo, man, them, I'm gonna need a prayer team just around man real quick or something. Cause yeah, going through that again solo, myth. I'm not doing it.
Oh, well, it was really good. Really, I really enjoyed seeing all the images and stuff. And then and I really enjoyed you having like the sound of the sea in the background as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
Yeah,
added to the aesthetic very nicely, I must say.
come on.
Yeah.
Hey, my beard is looking
Yeah.
long in this video, you know. But yeah,
Hey. Sure.
Mo was like, "Oh, I sound too deep. Let me make sure that misconception."
let me switch it back up again. Yeah, let me switch it back up and let me
All
get
right.
back into ends.
So I wanted to talk about something else today related to art. I don't know if any of you have seen this image. Hold on.
Don't show us anything pornographic, please.
No. I don't know if you guys have seen this image floating about social media at all.
No,
I haven't seen it, but I understand the premise.
Images.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it either. No.
So, so for those who don't know, so AI generated art is on the up and up recently. And I think the way it works is people are feeding lots of images to like different algorithms and stuff, telling the algorithm the kind of images or painting that it wants, and then it will take the information and then create different artwork. I know like a few weeks ago there was this app called, I think it was called Lensa, where people were feeding this app picture of themselves, and then it was coming up with all these different images, and it was looking wavy and stuff. And you know, I went down the AI art rabbit hole and just started watching videos on it and stuff. And I was thinking, AI art might be the future. And if so, what does that mean for human art and creativity going forward?
So this took a big this got a big push because there were a couple of open source AI that were released, and that's what a lot of the apps have been jumping on, and obviously is learning as more people give it more prompts, give it more images and all of that. I think, and this is still fairly early, the AI, whilst it is advanced, is not. It's still in the early stages. So if you try and do you try and give some of the prompts to create text and stuff, sometimes it struggles. It's like stop signs and things like that. It struggles with hands. It's still early stages. However, the point I'm making is, I think AI will do for art a similar thing IKEA has done for like handmade pieces. It just means that the artistry by human beings, however we figure out a way to determine that, because that's the other thing is, do you even know if it's done by a human being or by AI? But it will just mean that the value of art created by human beings will go up and be much more selective because it'll be a lot more competitive. And then there'll be a lot more commonplace art that's generated by AI in the same way as, you know, you can now get an IKEA table. I've got like a nice 5-foot table IKEA, composite wood, you know, nothing artisanal about it, and you can get that, or you can go and get like, you know, a proper oak wood hand finished, hand stained piece, and that would be like 4, 5, 6 times the price. Does that make sense?
Hold on 1 second. I don't understand why Moses is eating during the podcast. I don't think I didn't see you eating too, Peter.
I was a lot more subtle about it.
No, you weren't.
Don't hate.
No, you were just
Son,
you were like this.
You can eat as well. You can eat as well, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't come back chewing like my man here.
I'm not
This
shy.
is real life, though.
You know?
This is real life, yo. We're not professionals. We're human beings.
So like, but the difference I see between like IKEA tables and normal tables is how does one tell the difference between human art and AI generated art?
And that's what I'm saying is that's what's going to have to be the thing, because right now there isn't anything specific that shows, and we're going to have to figure that out, and eventually we will, because people are going to start submitting this for competitions,
Oh, they
as has
have.
been done in the past. Yeah,
They have.
yeah,
And
you know,
AI won.
yeah, or even things
That's
like
pain.
AI writers and generating like pieces of content. Like you can get some of the tests they'll have an AI generate. Like they'll say, okay, we all know Joe Rogan with his podcast, like generate a Joe Rogan intro, or generate an intro talking about genetically modified food in a style of a Joe Rogan. And it will come up with something, fairly similar to him. So there has to be work on figuring out how to verify where content is coming from. Once they do that, that's where I think, the difference between handmade will the value of handmade will then reflect or be reflected in that.
Okay.
Do you know what? I feel like I've turned off my camera because it's just
Yeah, I muted you when you
political.
did that, but yeah, just unmute as needs be.
Yeah. I feel like AI are almost, because with every advancement of creativity, there's been backlash. So when calligraphers transitioned to typography, there's been backlash when it became digitized, because now it's like you've lost the hand feel element of typography. When painting became photography, there was backlash. Again, you've lost the hand feel because you can just take pictures. When Canva did their thing, some graphic designers were up in arms because it's like, oh, you're making our work obsolete, because you can literally just go onto the site, templatize everything, and then keep it moving. There were some people that transitioned well. There were some people that didn't, and I feel like AI art is in the same vein. The AI art that I have seen, I have been able to distinguish between real pictures and not real pictures, simply because of the almost painterly feel to the pictures that made it seem as though, like, this isn't real. But if one of them has won a competition, then I'm assuming that there are a lot more sophisticated AIs out there that can replicate pixels or whatever from a camera, which, to be fair, can be easily done. I do feel like this now pushes creatives to actually work on their craft and not focus on gimmicks, not focus
It's
on riding the waves and stuff.
So it's slightly different because in all the examples you gave, what changed was the technology of the tool. You go from painting to photography. It's the tool that has changed. The artistic eye to be able to see a landscape and paint it is the same sort of artistic eye that will see a landscape and take a photo of it. You know, um,
That's the picture that won the competition.
yeah.
It doesn't show up really well on my thing, but it's actually quite very wavy. I'll send it to the group so you guys can see it properly.
Yeah,
So,
send it
so
to the group,
there's
please.
yeah, that there's still an element of the creativity of the individual shines through. The problem I think here is it's AI generating the art based on a
No, it's
database
not.
of other. It
Oh, I
is.
should have let you finish. I should have let
It
you
is.
finish the
So,
question.
in the sense of, it's algorithms that take information from so many different sources, puts it together and generates something based on your prompt. That's the only sort of input from the individual is the prompt.
But
And so
I,
that's where it becomes a bit different.
I'd kick back in saying, like, even the Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun, and it could be argued that any art that's being created by even any of us has been inspired by something that's come before us. So
Yes, but it's
how
been
can we?
inspired by something that's come before you through your lens. The problem here is now there is only one lens, which is the algorithm, taken from a much, much, much vaster database of information. Like literally, this is the thing. If you're saying to an AI, generate a intro. So one of the things that I saw was it generated an introduction to a podcast. It was the MKBHD podcast. Generate an introduction to the podcast in the style of MKBHD on this topic. And the prompt itself, and I mean, still it's in its infancy, so you can see what the algorithm is doing is, okay, this is the topic, go and find X number of articles on the topic, find the various keywords that keep popping up, find the context of those keywords, stick that together, then go and find podcast episodes from MKBHD, look at their intros, find key words that keep popping up, put those together, fill in the keywords from the topic, and spit it out. So it's still it's a fairly simplistic model, but it's in its infancy. The problem is now that AI is generating this. This is not. It's the prompt is. And I guess that's where your skills come in and your ability to write an interesting prompt. But then you've got it's no longer that doesn't, I don't think that represents the artistic input of the individual in the same way as painting to photography to Canva. You, Mo, can do something in Canva. I go and grab Canva and do the same thing, and it'll be significantly different because in as much as we're using the same tool, you've had X amount of exposure to typography, to photography, you've nurtured your artistic things in these ways. I've just had PowerPoint and, Ghanaian slideshows. So it will be very different what we're still using the same tool for. But then when it comes to just the prompts, in the same way as like Google, you start getting auto suggestions, and a lot of it ends up being, it reduces the amount of input from the individual, which is why I think it's very different. Whereas the tool and the change in the technology of the tool still still requires the artistic input. It just changes the way that input is used.
But then couldn't it be argued that now the input isn't based on how many hours you spent developing your craft as an artist. The input is now based on how many hours you spent in terms of crafting the algorithm. So couldn't that be?
But you're not crafting the algorithm. So that algorithm is being crafted by one set. So the two open source ones, I think it's two. The two open source ones are being crafted by however many software developers and web engineers and software engineers that are contributing to the algorithm. You aren't.
But then couldn't you argue that being able to come up with that perfect prompt is an art in itself?
No.
In the same way as being able to come up with the right Google question to get the answer you want is an art. Is it really an art? Do you get what I mean? Like
it's an art. It's an art.
But how much of it
takes a level of creativity?
It takes a level of understanding what the algorithm is looking for, and at some point,
No, because the algorithm is looking for what you're telling it to look for, as opposed to.
But then it will look for that based on your understanding of what it understands by what's your you got metal there. Your understanding of how the algorithm understands what you are trying to suggest. So when you're Googling something, like if you're Googling a recipe or you're trying to find something, there's a way that you phrase the Google search, and you'll find that some people recognize actually it just needs ABC keywords. Like when I'm looking for something on Google versus when Anita's looking for something on Google, it's very different because I understand how the algorithm works. So I'm like 3 keywords that I know will bring it to it, and maybe Anita's much more descriptive. Now it'll still do the same thing, but that's not really an art in as much as it is just familiarity. And that's what's happening with the AI thing.
So would you say that the person creating the algorithm is the true artist in all of this?
It's not a person. The individuals that are, well, in a very different way. It's artistry in is creativity in engineering and software engineering, not in art. If
No,
that
no,
makes
no,
sense.
no. But art. I feel like art can take so many forms, and being able to even create an algorithm, there's an art to that.
There is an
I
art to
wouldn't
it.
say
It's just
art.
not the
I wouldn't.
same.
I would
Not
say I
yeah.
would
So
say
go
more
ahead, Mo.
creativity than art.
Yes. So in the same
I
way
would say more
as
creativity. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm?
the person that designed the paintbrush to use in a painting or whatever, there's a certain level of creativity there. There's also a certain level of engineering there. That person might not necessarily be the best painter there is. That's another type of art. In the same way, there is, of course. I mean, you look at some how some of these algorithms work. That one uses diffusion something. I can't remember what it is. What the name of the algorithm is, but it uses this. It's a style of algorithm, whatever. Yeah, there's a creativity to it. It's very, very, very high level engineering, but that doesn't translate to the art it's being used to produce.
Hmm. I would almost see it as like um, a programming language, where obviously to use a programming language, you need a certain level of understanding. Now, the programming language is very logical, and so you can approach it from a very logical sense. Where Peter's like 3 keywords, XYZ, very efficient, get it done. Or you can be very flamboyant with the way you code. Adding extra lines, adding extra flares, even the way you lay out the code can be very creative, can be an art form in and of itself. Or you can just approach it as a very logical sequence of events. Um, and so the AI is almost the programming language. And what you put into it is the code that you've just you've just programmed it with. And what it comes out with is you running that program. And so there is a collaboration between the language and the programmer, the AI and the person who's actually setting the thing. Um, and there you can either approach it as more logical or more creative. But also saying I agree with what you said, Peter, in that there is a difference between a human, like all the examples that I gave was very much still human generated, but this one is like it's solely an AI generating everything. And even the conversations that I have heard a lot around this is um, plagiarism and ownership of work. So as photographers, I can literally put into it and be like, I want a portraiture in the style of Gelade. And I'll feed it my images, and then it would go through Jalade's website, his Instagram, his Vimeo, whatever, capture his style, and then morph my images into his style. And so right there, I have just made Gelade redundant, and I have something that replicates his work. How do we avoid that? How do we hold AI
But
accountable? How do we? Yeah,
but then how would that be different if you just understood what Gelade style was and then took pictures in Gelade style?
because you actually understood it. You've deciphered creatively and actually artists are encouraged to do that, to develop their artistry, but they're not doing that to just be a replica of Gelade or to replace Gelade, but then to go on to develop their own styles, which may be
And that's
influenced or yeah.
and that's where what you said, Robert, about there not being nothing new under the sun sort of comes into play, because then what inevitably happens is it's Mo's interpretation or it's Mo's expression of Jolade's style that then comes out, that then becomes its own unique thing, which is cool. And again, as has been said, normally that's even one way that some people encourage you to find your own style, but then to also, as you work on your craft, as you understand your basics, you then filter that through, and then it becomes a unique thing that's your style. The problem with this is it removes that step, because now it's not, unless the person wants to, there's no attribution, and there is this algorithmic production of Jolade style with Moses' pictures without attribution, without more even understanding the style and doing it himself or having
But
his fingerprint on it. you know, so
So okay,
that's
so
very dangerous.
you know, back in the day, I tried to teach myself how to like do artistic stuff on Photoshop, by like go by like going on YouTube and typing something in. This is how you do this on Photoshop. Okay, I understand what I was doing. I just knew if I followed these steps, it would
Yeah,
create this result.
yeah.
So based on that, because I didn't understand the steps of what I was doing to create a picture using Photoshop, does that mean that my art is plagiarized or not as good because I didn't understand the steps I was using in Photoshop to get to that end result?
Not necessarily, because those steps that you use in Photoshop, eventually you will start to, if you kept on doing it, and even if you stuck with it, what you start out with and what you finish with will not always be the same. So it ends up becoming a tool to achieve something, and you always start from this picture, you follow these steps to get that. If you keep on doing that, fine, you're just reproducing the same thing. But what will happen is you will start to develop your own taste and your own style. And again, Photoshop is a tool. So you start to find, oh, actually, this element actually I prefer more, or I like my pictures with this sort of sheen to them, or whatever the case. So again, it's a matter of developing, and that's why you work on your craft and you understand your basics. You then use what tools and use what people have learned to then influence yours, and that's the same thing as maybe you watch that same video. You know, we all tend to learn stuff off of YouTube. I learned a lot of DaVinci Resolve off of YouTube. Mo learned DaVinci Resolve as well. But then
Come on.
when it comes to editing, I imagine we will have very different styles in as much as we're
Facts.
watching the same thing, because there are other influences on what the finished product looks like to us that then still has a unique fingerprint of the individual that's creating it. And again, that's what's removed with this whole AI stuff.
What I was going to add as well is, with your example with Photoshop, arguably you're learning the technical skills.
Yeah.
In as much as you are following the steps, you're kind of getting the same results. But this is looking at the technicality. And we do that with anything. When you learn maths, like, you're not saying you're plagiarizing the teacher, you're learning the steps to solve a quadratic equation or whatever it is. You're learning the steps. Then you're able to apply that to another question. When you go through science, whatever it is, you're learning the technicalities. And with any creative pursuit, even if you want to learn how to draw, someone is going to teach you how to hold the pencil properly. You're not plagiarizing the person, you're learning the technicalities. And so I would make a distinction in the Photoshop thing, as you weren't that wasn't, in as much as it was a creative pursuit, but that instant was more technical, in that you're learning the
Photoshop isn't the
technicalities
art.
of
Photoshop is just a tool
yeah.
to mold your art.
Also, can I just say, minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Jeez, I still got it.
Quadratic
I
formula.
still got it.
Man.
Did you Google that?
No,
No. He's been.
I saw you,
No.
I saw you typing on your keyboard.
what keyboard, bro? Man's got full screen. Okay, final question. In this era of AI art that is coming up, and this era of AI creativity that's coming up, what impact, if any, do you think this has on us as image bearers of a creative God who has given us creativity as well?
That's a good question.
I think it pushes us deeper. I think it opens up new avenues to be image bearers, to be creative, and for those who feel called to actually create work, it pushes us deeper towards excellence. Now, excellence for one person may look like a stick figure. Excellence for another person may look like a Picasso. And so excellence isn't necessarily a lifelike drawing or whatever, but excellence in your context. But I feel like I almost would liken it to the improvement of medication. Like, how has that, and it's not like a direct correlation between creativity and medication, but in the Bible, we see a lot of examples of people having no other option but to pray for healing. And now, bro, you can go to the pharmacy and go and get paracetamol. You don't necessarily have to pray. But
You
it
should still pray
pushes us
though.
deeper. You can, bro, you can still pray, and I would actually encourage you to pray. But it pushes us into this position of almost engaging with God a lot more intentionally and slightly differently. In that, if you want to see signs, if you want to see healings, then you need to be intentional about that. Because of the how abundant medication is at the moment. The NHS is free unless you're in another part of the world. But just with the abundance of from the medical field, and I do see the medical field as well as being a blessing from God. And so I'm not necessarily seeing this as like, oh, you shouldn't interact with the medical field. But it challenges faith and it pushes us deeper in a way that actually can enhance the faith. I don't know. I can't think of any at the top of my head. I'm trying to, but I can't. But yeah.
I think I wonder if this is a question we can answer, because we are of a generation that precedes this technology and we're seeing it come to play. Because the question I keep asking myself is this a tool or is it a shortcut? And I think it will come down to the next generation and how they use it. That will determine whether it becomes a tool that they use or a shortcut. And you see the same argument made, musicians that, would play in a live band and record a live band and stick all of that on vinyl, then look down on those that will, use a synth board or whatever, a MIDI keyboard or whatever, to create the same sorts of sounds, and they're doing it all digitally from their bedroom. And it's like, it's just the difference in tools. But it's just here it feels different because it's not necessarily a tool. However, what I've noticed is, in as much as the technology comes, people find a way to make it a tool or find a way to use it that makes it a tool. So it'll be interesting. I wonder, when we think of Christian art, we end up thinking, well, I'm making this art to please my Father or to encourage people. And so if I write a poem and I perform it in front of the church, I'm hoping the church gets something from it. I'm hoping God is pleased with it. But then I'm also hoping God is pleased with my effort in that thing. Now, if I create an AI-generated poem and I share that at church, am I taking credit for that? How will I feel about taking credit for that? How will God feel about me taking credit for that? Will he be like, well, really good keywords that you used in your prompt there, sort of thing? And that's where I think I struggle to answer the question, because I don't think, thinking from my point of view, I will never be able to present an AI generated poem as my own. And so I'll never view it as art that I created.
I feel like maybe not now, because I haven't seen much Christian poetry recently. But back in the day, a lot of Christian poetry just felt like keywords being put next to each other.
Yeah,
Mad.
yeah.
And I was just
Salvation,
thinking, I was
righteousness.
just thinking, one day we could potentially have AI generated sermons being preached on a Sunday.
Maybe one day, if it isn't already, I'm sure you can write a prompt for it. I'm sure you can. Yeah, I'm sure. Create a sermon based on this verse in the style of a Joel Osteen.
So, do you think if there was a church that followed, or no, if there was a
So I
church,
was going to say as well. So let me just say this quickly. Imagine someone's going through a hard time, and they're like, no, outside the question, I'm like, yeah, this is iffy, but they're like, a psalm AI, the keyword is almost like a psalm on depression. and like, oh yeah, this reflects the way that I'm feeling. I take that example back because I'm like, just go read the Bible. Just don't try to AI generate scripture. Let's not do that.
Oh,
You,
it
But
will be
you,
yeah,
done.
you,
I take
you
that
could
back.
you
It will be
could
done.
AI generate an encouragement psalm in the sense of a Psalm 23 or something like that. It wouldn't be
Yeah,
scripture, but then what
it
you could
wouldn't be
also
scripture.
do is you could also surface like verses, which is you have books like, oh, where can you find it in the Bible, or you remember those small little New Testaments, and at the back there'd be like a glossary of anger, and then there's verses on anger and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You could also do that to surface verses, but then again, I feel like all of those fail because of the reason that the Bible was given, which is not just as a reference book or as a user manual, but rather as a introduction to a person. And so I think it fails in that sense. So you could very well do it. I just think it will fail to achieve what the Bible means to achieve if you use it in such manner.
Cool. All right, I think we've talked enough about AI. We need to be careful before they're listening and they try and take over the world. Let's at least wait until we die before they do that. Great. Hookups.
I'll go first. So my hookup is a game, a mobile game that
Ooh.
just got released actually, and it's called Ninja Must Die.
Okay.
It's actually a really cool. It's like a really cool. Um, I don't know if you ever watched those stick figure animations, and they were like stick figures fighting, and it's like proper stick figures, like DBZ style fights. Um, but this is a very very visual, story based, well packaged game. It's free, so you can grab it on. At least I've got it on Android. I don't know if it's on Apple yet. I imagine it will be. But yeah, Ninja Must Die. I'll include it in the links.
Cool.
I'll go next. Mine is a book. It's on Audible. It's about like I finished it. Let me see how long it is. 5 hours, 5.5 hours long. But it's a book called Reading While Black. Yeah. Like I really enjoyed listening to it. It kind of goes through. It's got quite a few chapters, and it treats each chapter as a complete entry in and of itself. The guy who wrote it, Esau Macaulay, studied biblical Greek and biblical Hebrew, so he reads like the Greek Bible, Greek version throughout it, and like tries to translate some of the stuff from the Greek, but just making an argument that we can't divorce our experiences from our reading of the Bible, and our experiences of oppression and empowerment and stuff like that all shape the way that we interact with the Bible. He tries to chart a path between the black radicals and the black liberals when it comes to reading the Bible, and just tries to interact with the Bible from a sober place and looking at various themes within the Bible and certain arguments when it comes to race and stuff within the church. And yeah, it just goes through it. It was a good read. It was definitely a good read, and it's a it's a lighter read. There are definitely a lot more heftier black orientated Christian books.
So does that mean? We should get? So that mean when we read the Bible and we see Simeon the Niger, we should get upset because we're reading it as black people?
No.
Okay, just check it.
But you know what? Yeah, I've been in church services, yeah, where the black people have all been like, "Oh, how's this person going to pronounce it?" And it's been tense. You can see sweat forming on the person's head top. But yeah, it was really informative, and just recognizing that even the individualized reading of the Bible is something that the Western world propagated. But within Afro-Caribbean community, there's definitely a communal grounding in how the Bible is understood. Both have their pros and cons, because obviously communally, if someone is mistaken, then everyone just takes that false doctrine. But with the individual side, everyone is more relative. People are like, oh, this is what I got from the Bible. This is what I got from the Bible. So again, recognizing that, yes, we are but I'm giving it away. If you're on it, go read it. Reading While Black, Esau McCauley. It's a dope book. If you want to get a snippet of it, actually, he was interviewed by the Bible Project on their podcast. So they have a conversation with him where he kind of goes into nuance and stuff like that of the book, and he actually calls them out on their own podcast, which was dope. Which was dope, because he's like, yo, I've written other books, but no one wanted to talk to me about it until I wrote Reading While Black, and now that there's a political climate around race, everyone wants to talk to me. Why is that? And then you could hear them like grasping for words, which I thought was good. Like he stuck it on them. So yeah, if you want to listen to a podcast beforehand, the Bible Project, it's one of the earlier podcasts, so you might need to crawl through the listing. But yeah, they do interview him.
Cool. My hookup is also a book, one that Peter might find interesting or useful. 642 Stories to Write. It's a book of like writing prompts. I'll just read a couple. So it's just prompts, and then you have to write a story based on the prompt. So this one says, literally just going through it. A store in your town has been holding a going out of business sale for as long as you can remember. Today you see a help wanted sign in the window. So there's that. Another one says all 5 sisters showed up at the funeral.
Why did that take me back to that? Sorry.
She started working as an artist model at the age of 90. So it's a whole bunch of just random prompts for you to write stories on. Looking for inspiration on Ryan Peter? There you go.
That's dope.
Oh, and I have the best title for this podcast episode. It's going to be so sick. And it was generated by me and me alone. I've been thinking about this since like yesterday.
AI. Nah, cool.
All right. Shout out to Ruth for the intro outro music, Calvin Turner for the Ordinary Amazing logo, Twitter at Furnace UK, Instagram at TBS Furnace. You can email us at tbsfurnace@hotmail.com. You can find us at soundcloud.com/Blacksmith, no apostrophe. On all good podcast websites and apps to Blacksmith with an apostrophe. That's it. So this is the Blacksmiths. I just realized this is the last podcast the listeners will hear before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to you guys in advance.
Yeah. Because it's releasing on Sunday, right?
No, Monday. People do this on Monday.
Yeah.
No. Really, I release on Sunday when I fail. But yeah, if I'm on point, I'll release it on Sunday.
Okay, well I've said it now, so release the next one on Monday.
No.
We'll record the next one on the 22nd, which is before Christmas.
Yes, but we're not going to.
Yeah, but it doesn't go out
Day,
until after Christmas.
I can put it out on Christmas Day.
No, because no one will listen to it then.
Bro, who's going to be listening to a podcast on Christmas?
I probably will.
You won't. You got a child and wife.
Yeah, they'll be sleeping. I'll be driving or doing this.
I'm going to message Anita to be like, don't let Peter listen to any podcast on Christmas Day. Yeah?
How? When I'm doing dishes, what am I doing?
Watching Chainsaw Man, baby.
Come on. Listening to Christmas carols, yeah? Listen to Christmas carols.
Demonic stuff. I only watch anime in subbed, so I can't watch it and then read the subs at the same time.
You can.
I don't do something else.
It's called multitasking.
Anyway, let's round up.
Cool. Well, this is the Blacksmith Furnace signing out.
And them.
Oh,
Lipton.
also, apologies.
Lipton iced tea.
Apologies.
Yeah, yeah.
Apologies to the listeners. I had fufu. I had to eat it immediately because if you don't eat it when it's hot, then you might as well not eat it at all. So that's why I had to. You know,
I had kebab meat and chips.
from MX though.
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys.